Welcome back to Blasting Off with Bootstrap. This is Level 4, Section 2, Navigating Navigation. So far, the only way to navigate between pages is that list of links way down there in the footer that very few people will ever see. In this section, we'll be working on adding a navigation bar at the top of our page that we can use instead. So here's what we'll be building in this section. We want the title of our page to really stand out, and we want our most important links to be easily accessible at the top of our page. Just as a refresher, here's our current page header that we'll be working with. We'll be replacing this entire row with a navigation bar using Bootstrap. One major difference for a navigation is that we will no longer be using a grid system. Because of that, we can remove our row and our call MD12 elements all together. So why aren't we using a grid here? Well, we'll want the width of the elements in our navigation to be determined by their content rather than by a grid system. We'll see how that'll allow us to build a more flexible navigation throughout this section. To get our links ready for our navigation bar, we can copy them from our footer and put them up here as well. These are all links to other pages in our site. If you remember how our footer looked when we first looked at it, you might have a guess as to what our page looks like so far. You can see that if we preview our updated page, our navigation has those default bullet icons next to them, kind of like all unstyled, unordered lists do. We will definitely work on cleaning those up, but first let's get that H1 converted to be a link back to our home page. Since we want this to be a link, we can get rid of that H1 tag that we added in earlier and convert it to a standard link using an A tag. Now that we've converted this into a link that points to our home page, we'll need to add a class of navbar-brand to it. This class specifies that the text or image represents your brand and will be positioned way over to the left side of the page. If we open this up in a browser, we'll see that we're making a little bit of progress. Our link element and our navigation list element are at least on the same line. The navbar-brand class is a great place for you to put your site logo as well. It's a common pattern that the very top left corner of your website links back to your home page, and it's where people will first look when they visit your site. Let's see what we can do to clean up our list of links next. One very easy change we can do is use Bootstrap's nav component by adding a class of nav to our UL element. This nav class specifies that the list items within this entire element are links, and then styles them accordingly. In our case, they will still appear next to our brand. You might ask why the beginning of our list is still appearing on the same line as our title. Well, our list is still starting at the same spot it was before, but because of this nav class, now all of our links are being carried down to following lines. The nav class is similar to btn or glyphicon. It's a starting point that we can use to say we're going to use a nav here. We'll still need to add another class to let Bootstrap know what type of navigation we want to use.